do that, we kind of need to understand the one force, the Saidin, right? Now, it itself is not evil. It's a force. It's a natural force that exists within this world, and it allows you to kind of do almost anything. This is their magic integration, kind of beautifully done. So this force itself doesn't have intent, but clearly it can be wielded. It can be coerced. It can be even forced. Like that was his role. Like the males were more about taking that force and holding it down. You're gonna do what I want you to do with this. So it's the male half of this force, right? And it's active. It is the aggressive aspect of the true power. So it requires the other saidar requires surrender and having balance, right? Saidin requires you have to control this. It's the difference that they break apart along the gender lines that I'm not necessarily crazy about, but it's the story, so we're gonna stay consistent to it. And to channel it is not to kind of flow with the power. That's not what the guys are taught. They're not taught, hey, talk to the force, be sweet to it, coerce it. That's not what they say. They're like, you seize it, you dominate it, you force it into shape. So it becomes faster. It becomes more purely destructive. It is far more destructive, the male aspect, which is why initially they go out to fight the dark one, right? But we'll get to that later. And their margin for error is like minimal, right? Because there is no room for error. It's less forgiving in almost every aspect when you compare the male part to what the females actually were. So this is how the state, it was already an imbalance within this system, right? So we totally get that. Now at its peak, this Saidin enables the most powerful feats ever achieved by humans. Through this, entire landscapes have been reshaped. Wars are ended in moments when someone who understands how to wield this power. So it is absolute power that kind of requires no restraint. It requires all the bad stuff in order to shape it. This is kind of where this is really coming from. And we see it right off the bat. So with them, it changes. You can end a war right now. Civilizations can be built or destroyed with the same ease as someone who controls the male component of it. And it doesn't care about your intent. The force itself, ironically, never seems to care about what it is that you're actually going to do with it. It doesn't care. All it cares about is the execution. And that way it's kind of similar to what we see with George Lucas's, his version of the force, right? Not the association along gender lines, but clearly in ways that it's manifested. Whereas the Sith are more like, yeah, we got to take this, shape it, beach in a line. Where the Jedi are more like, we gotta flow, you gotta feel, it has to be a part of you. So we see that split that happens about this. So this is where how the force really operates. Now, before the breaking of the world, the male and the females worked together. They were balancing these two sides of the force. Now that balance ended because of the Dark One. He counterattacked during this sealing of the border, which is his portal by which he was coming through, right? And we're going to talk about that as well. So what he does in Revenge, which is brilliant, this guy needs to be revered as a world-class villain, right? A world-class mastermind in what he's able to do, because he does it very succinctly and it has a long-term effect. He contaminates the Saidin. He contaminates the force that was designed to stop him specifically. Because the other force, I don't know why, is going to struggle. Although the women casters, channelers, all seem to be very powerful. So I got to see what this dark force is really able to, the Dark One. So when he goes about contaminating this force, this is kind of a residual metaphysical poison, and it clings to the male half. So every time a man channels, he exposes himself to this level of corruption. It's like you're using a computer with malware on it. You're just trying to not click the files that are going to set everything off, right? And so cumulatively over time, the more that a male uses it, the more likely he is going to be absolutely corrupted by it. That's the truth. I mean, like, it's slow, and you start to, subtly notice things that are different. So it doesn't begin with you being mad. It doesn't start off that way. It may start off where you're feeling more in control of yourself than ever before. And then this force starts to do insidious things to you. It's whispering voices to you. You start to question yourself. You start to question your alliances and the people around you. It starts to distort what you're seeing in front of yourself. This is paranoia. This is obsession. This is pleasure seeking in a lot of ways. And we see Rand start to manifest slowly. He's changing. Like, we are watching, if you're in the season there, we're watching him change already and start to manifest things that were outside of his personality before. Again, sucker for love, more committed type of guy. We saw that, right? But this is what they're up against. Your emotions start to flatten out. Certainty starts to change. That only I can see clearly is something that a mantra we start to hear from people who are deluded this way. Power was accelerated decay in this form. It creates a feedback loop where strength increases your exposure and exposure increases your instability. So ironically, it's all the strongest male channelers that fell first because they were massive more amounts of energy or force that they were using to make this happen. This isn't because they were arrogant. This is not personal failings on their part. And typically we hear corruption like this. That's what we think. This wasn't the case here. This is because they were efficient, because they were too good at wielding it, and that's what the Dark One built into the system. So a staggering blow to lose half your force to be able to fight. And the whole civilization collapses after that. Now, Saidin does require that you have control. So for them, emotional detachment always feels like a higher sense of clarity. So right off the bat, just utilizing the power, even in a good function, even in an absolutely positive light, it requires that you have this level of emotional detachment, and it feels like clarity. It encourages isolation. It reinforces the belief that you're carrying this responsibility by yourself. So madness is not the only side effect of this belief system or this mode of channeling, but it is the final one. This is usually the step where you've crossed over too many lines. You've started to run off enemies. You've probably done some things already that are problematic, and this is what happens. This is by nature. So even after it's cleansed, after it's purged, the nature of it doesn't change. It still remains that. The poison is removed, but the danger remains. This is a force that has no empathy. This is power without guardrails. And if I had to kind of put it into terms, it is far less of a sword and far more of a nuclear reactor, right? And we get that. You can easily draw power from this. It creates massive powers, but don't let it get out of control. Because the moment that it gets out of control, you have 3 Mile Island now, right? This is what you have. So this is how they have to approach even using the force. So we see him kind of riding this fine line. You have to do this, but it could go bad. Not only you have to do this and it could go bad, it probably goes bad for you no matter what. Whether we win, whether we lose, you're probably not going to walk out of this being okay. Because that rarely happens. That so rarely happens.